you've come out on the podcast and said that I'm gay, and people might look and go, what the fuck, I didn't know that. But it's literally, I didn't know that. Cool. You know what I mean? Like it is what it is. Like, okay, maybe 10 years ago, it was maybe could have been a slight issue where things, but we are moving in the right direction in terms of where things can't become accepted and it's just the norm now. But what I don't want, like, for that slippery slope for things to become the norm are like, hey, I got sexually abused. Oh, cool, normal.
That's the point of this is to change, like we need to start creating conversations where people can talk about this openly in order to prevent it from happening again. When my siblings started having kids, essentially when I saw my nieces and my nephews, they're the reason why I'm doing this. Sorry. Because they didn't ask to be here either. They never asked for any of this chaos. And when I saw my nieces and my nephew, I saw myself in them. And I thought, no, fuck off. This is not happening to them. It ends here. It ends here.
And where you are stepping out in that, being that chief, being that leader, is they're going to look up at you and they will be able to identify wrong from right. And that's what I meant by saying we can't normalize it. Like, yes, let's normalize some things in terms of like acceptance, but acceptance in terms of being sexually abused or physically abused or whatever, that trauma, abuse is not normal. And it shouldn't, like, whether it's from fucking bullying all the way up to like sexual, we need to help people identify wrong from right. What is love and what is abuse? What is, violence and what is, anger, et cetera, and these are the pathways. Like you said, like sometimes religion gets thrown in there and says, oh, well, so and so only cared for you because he was that person or that person, and this shit has to stop. You know what I mean? Like the conversations, yes, need to be had, but also truth need to be told.
100%.
Do you know what I mean? Truth needs to be told where it's black and white, and like, no, that person is a monster for doing this, or And I think it's getting there, bro. I really do. Like, especially, back in Australia and New Zealand, where it's very now, it's at the forefront. People are starting to step out and talk about their experiences, or even to the point where they've stopped it in its tracks, which is great. But I think amongst the community, especially the Pacific community, the Polynesian community, it definitely needs a push. You know what I mean? Because
100%.
like, youth suicide in these communities are such a big number.
It's
and
crazy.
These young kids who are not living past 15, 16, like that's just a waste. And
exactly.
That's because they just feel like you said, there's guys like you who decided, and it was basically thrown on you. You didn't have a decision. It wasn't like, I'm going to do this. It was like, you're doing this, and you got through it. But look what happened in your 20s. You thought, fuck, I don't want to be here anymore. Right. So this is happening a lot earlier now.
It is
14, 15, 16. I don't want to be here anymore. You haven't lived. They didn't get a chance. And whose fault was this? You know what I mean? So definitely having conversations like this, and then reaching out to family and parents, brothers, sisters. Like, what I did, I just took out of that when you started posting and people messaged you and said, are you okay? I think that's a good thing.
100%.
You know what I mean? Because that never used to happen either.
Never used to happen.
People used to silently cry out on social media indirectly and be ignored. And that's no one's fault, right? But you can see when people are hurting, and then, there's these messages of like, whatever it might be. So sometimes, people don't know how to ask for help, so they do it indirectly. And then a message like that, hey, sis or bro, you okay? Like, and then that starts a conversation, and then, so on and so forth. So
it's creating, like I said, it's creating this space, in Samoan culture, we call it avanoa, an opportunity or a space where actually, when I say that word, I remember in, part of our culture, when we have a whanua meeting, each brother or sister, so for example, mum is one of 11, so each of the 11 would speak or have a voice or have an opinion. And I always remember them starting off with, saying "Whaftai lava mo lene avanua," which is thank you for this opportunity, thank you for this space. We grow, it's part of our culture, is creating space, creating, having this opportunity. And so we need to fine tune that conversation or that corridor and say, okay, well, what kind of spaces are we creating? Let's start creating spaces where our kids feel safe to talk. Our kids feel safe to come to mum and dad. And, it's this mentality that we have in our culture that you must obey mum and dad and you must do what they say. We need to change that, where kids feel comfortable to come home and have a conversation with mum and dad, sit down with mum and dad and say, hey, listen, this is going on. This is what I'm dealing with, like that's not normal in our culture,
It's funny because you say that, and I was speaking to a young girl today. She's one of my clients, and she's only turned 16. Anyway, long story short, lives with mum. Dad lives here as well, but has another family, whatnot, right? So they've grown up with mum, and she over the last week has been called by her dad and said, I want you to come and stay with me while your mum's away, blah, blah, blah. So she's coming to the gym today. She's a little bit upset. Very well put together girl. Like, she talks well for a 16-year-old, very well grown up, for her age. And I said this to her. I said, look, Dad's not meaning to be the way he is. He's seeing his baby girl slip away because you don't live with him. And every time he calls you, if he feels like it's forced, like, oh, please come and stay with me. So anyway, the story was, I said, look, you're at an age now and your vocabulary is so much different to when I was 16 to have a conversation with Dad and sit him down and say, look, Dad, I don't want this to be forced. I want to have my dad around. Make him understand, because it's guesswork. And like we said, is that no one teaches a parent to be a parent. No one teaches anyone to, what's a 14-year-old thinking when they're saying, how was your day? And they're like, good. And they walk to their room and fucking just slam the door. What the fuck's going through that kid's head? We don't know. So who's going to make the first move? Because if mum or dad goes into the room and says, what's going on? They're going to go, fuck off, leave me alone. So, but that was back in the day. I feel like kids are way different now, where they're almost growing up too fast. But that's, what can we do? This is the age.
That's the thing. Like, I read, I can't remember where I read this. Yesterday I was reading something where our natural biology is, like, back in the day before technology, like technology has gone crazy in the last 10 years. Our biology is only designed to know, say, 100 people back when we were living in, a city but we weren't so connected. Now, you're like, every person that you interact with, there's so many different people. Like, you go through thousands of people, and your brain is literally like overstressed, over working, because they're constantly having, the brain is constantly having to think, is this person a threat, is that person a threat, is this person safe, this is, why did that person look at me? Like, the brain is, the stress response system can't cope with the speed or the rate that technology and the modern world is developing at, and it's identifying that the aspect that the world is developed, like the modern world is developing at a lot faster rate than our minds are actually able to keep up with, and it's having that time to actually have a point, like, if you're a parent doing your work and like sitting down and thinking, okay, I'm actually in the power of influence here. I have the power to influence how my child lives their life. During the research, like, I found all this information out about psychology simply because I just started reading it. Like, it's accessible to anyone.
Of course,
you've got your phone, you've got your laptop, you can literally find this shit out. It's all over the internet.
It's so funny because people want, what we were talking about yesterday was like, back home is going for a bit of a tough time at the moment in terms of like Corona and the pandemic flaring up again. And you've got these fucking 30-year-olds who don't want to take a vaccine because they're so clued up on a conspiracy and this, that, and they're doing research. Like, you're not coming out with these facts if you're not on your phone reading it.
Yeah.
But the same person is going through a mental health struggle right now and a battle amongst themselves in their own head, won't pick up their phone and do a bit of study on how or why things are being triggered, or like, it's funny, right? We focus on the smallest, stupidest things, and when it comes to something like your own health benefits, we ignore. Like, and that's crazy, bro.
I said in the conversation that I had today with my friend from back home, I said to her, our brains are literally trying to process all of this information, and if we don't take the time out to learn how the brain works, it's the pilot seat.
Of course, yeah.
If you think about it, everything comes back to the brain. If you don't, like, the brain is literally the source of your life.
Of course, it's your computer
It's your computer
makes the ship run, and if that's damaged, bro, then you're damaged.
If you don't know how to work it, if you don't know how to utilize it,
or if you don't understand it,
if you don't understand it, you're blind.
Absolutely, bro. Right, so that was awesome. Like, thanks for sharing that, bro, because I know that got quite tough for you to share, but I'm glad it's out, and I'm glad people will be able to sort of maybe take something from that in terms of your story and see some similarities in their life, or where they can sort of see how to get through a tougher time in their life and come out the other side of it. Right, so we've touched on your life pretty much in a nutshell there, and I don't want to fly through it because we could sit here for all night doing this. Let me ask you a question I wanted to ask after hearing all that. Now, at your age now, mid-30s, are you finally getting to a happy place, or are you in a happy place after living now what I consider, or you consider, living your true self?
Yeah. I think as long as we're alive, as long as we're here, it's a constant evolution. We're constantly evolving, we're constantly learning, we're constantly becoming the better version of who we are. Where I'm at now, I've said this to a few people, I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. This is exactly where I'm supposed to be. So am I happy? Yeah, for a long time. I mean, I felt this way when I started coming out to people and started living my truth, I did feel that sense of happiness, because I started living my authentic life. But through this, like after this whole pandemic now, I even feel more like I know that this is my calling. I know that
more liberated.
Yeah, almost, I know that this is the work that I'm supposed to do. Like I can sit here all day reading books on psychology and it won't even feel like an hour's gone. Like I'll look up and be like, shit, it's dark outside.
Yeah.
I'll wake up in the middle of the night and like at 2 a.m. in the morning, my brain just starts thinking about stuff to do with psychology, and like I start putting things together. And I know now that this is your calling. This is my calling.
Yeah. It's amazing. And as I said, I don't know if I said it on this podcast, was that a certain age this happens. It's that shift. It's that turn of the key where you're like, this is why I'm here.
Yeah.
It might come later for some people. Yeah. And I think, for me, being an entrepreneur in that entrepreneurial space for the last 15 years, working for myself in like that, chucking out ideas here, there, and there, and you're chucking shit at the wall, hoping it sticks.
Yeah.
And one day it does.
Yeah.
And you're like, right, this is the game changer. I don't do podcasts because I fucking feel like people, like hundreds of people watch it. They don't, bro. There's a channel full of that stuff. I do it to connect.
Yeah.
I know that's what I'm good at, connecting people.
100%.
I've done it for 15 years in terms of a sporting space.
Yeah.
But this is different. This is different because you get something out of it.
100%.
But you learn so much as well.
100%.
And like you said, like humans need to interact. We need to connect. Yeah. Half the battle of mental health is because people are not connecting.
100%.
And if they are connecting, they're connecting in the wrong way.
Yeah.
Whether it be a toxic version or, whatever it is. So, you did say that, is that, humans rely on human connection,
100%.
and that's what we need to do more of. So
one thing that I think will help a lot of people who might be listening to this is, from what I've read in psychology, there's this thing called neuroplasticity. Have you heard? Neuroplasticity essentially is the brain can change.
Yeah,
it can create new neural pathways. And when I realized that, because I guess there's this idea out there that you can't change, that it's, I think it's existed in a lot, in history, that they didn't actually know that the brain could actually change.
Yeah,
it is possible to change the brain. It's very possible.
Well, the brain can adapt to any situation, right?
100%. You like, if you've got habits in your life that you're trying to get rid of, essentially what it is it's a neural pathway that exists in your brain. It takes a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of coaching to create a new neural pathway. But I want to put that out there to people who are listening, that you may be listening to this and thinking, well, that's incredible for them. Like, they've changed and they're, they've got it all together. Or they've had this happen to them. If you're a human being and if you've got a brain, which I'm pretty sure you do, it is possible, 100% possible. I'm here to testify to that. If there's anything that, my life can testify to, is that your brain is literally able to change. You can change the way you think. You can change the way that you behave if you spend the time to actually learn how the brain works, and how you function as a human being.
And definitely getting up each day with a different mindset. A mindset of change will also help. You know what I mean? Like 100%. I put this up in a post, I think 2 days ago on our work page, was that, like, and it was written by me. I didn't fucking get it off Pinterest because the way I read it was pretty shit. But it was like, don't overthink. You don't need a storyboard to lay out and overthink your next move. Change is change. Change is like down to, instead of setting your alarm at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, pushing it down to 5 o'clock, that's change. You're waking up a little bit earlier, maybe to start, I don't know, work or whatever it is. That is a slight change.
And that's the thing. When you can implement small changes, tiny little changes, what you're teaching the brain essentially is, I can do this. Like, for example, if you one of the things that I've implemented in my morning routine, it's hard to do here in Dubai, is have a cold shower. What I do now is I fill up a bucket of water every night before I go to bed, and then as soon as I get up in the morning, as soon as I'm awake and I know that I'm awake, I get up out of bed, I walk into that shower, and I
pour it over yourself,
plunge myself into cold water. That's a mental thing. Like, who in their right mind is going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning out of a warm bed, out of, you're still trying to wake up and have a cold shower? When you do that, when you step out of that shower and you've just taken a cold shower, your brain then is just like, oh, you can do this. I mean, like, the point of doing that, like, people will question, why would you have a cold shower? It's a kind of like a shock to the system. It shocks the nervous system into waking up. You start shivering, your muscles start activating in a certain way.
If you want to look more scientifically into that method, it's the Wim Hof method, right? So have a look at Google that. We won't go into much, but definitely.
It's just a small thing. Like, when you're able to implement one small little change in your life, and your brain starts realizing, oh, I can do this. You start implementing more and more and more, and gradually, when you look back, you'll be like, my entire life has just changed. Like, it's not the same as it was.
Correct. And that's how habits are built, right? 100%. Bad habits, good habits, but habits are built on the back of
it's repetition.
Exactly. Nice, brother. All right, let's wrap it up. So the last couple of questions I'll ask, right? So, mid-30s, you're starting to find your groove. You're starting to find your lane, I like to call it. And you're on a new journey to see out basically, what happens from here on in. So, in the next 12 months, where do you want to see yourself in terms of the next 12 months?
Within the next 12 months, I want to have started my own business. I want to have a coaching business running.
Yeah, I was going to say yesterday, bro, and actually Josie said it to me today when we trained. She was like, I can see him being a life coach. And I said, I fucking 100% see him being a life coach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you're authentic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I was always under the perception life coaches had to live a bit of life to experience.
Well, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
I don't want to be a life coach because I'm still living life.
Yeah.
I'm still living.
Yeah.
What I would like to call myself is a mindset coach.
Yeah.
It's because I've learned the skill of changing my mindset. And I know that I've been able to do that. And I know that's possible for anyone.
Oh.
And so it's not like if I were to coach someone, I'm not going to tell them like, this is how you do it my way. Blah, blah. Everybody's like I said before, everybody is unique in their own way. And it's just finding ways where you can train yourself. And like, when I am a coach with this business running, I want my clients to come to me and I want it to be about me saying, okay, well, have you seen it this way? It's giving them a different perspective,
you give them
giving them a different perspective and making them realize that they're able to do this. This is the work, like I said before, the work is yours to do.
Absolutely.
It's just having someone come alongside
and
you.
Look, take it from me, like coaching in general, right? Like, you know, do that every day. You're putting accountability in somebody's hands that needs to take that accountability and say, look, here is a textbook, right? It doesn't have to be done like this, right? You can figure out a way to go from A to Z in your own fashion, whatever works, but create a habit
100%
and consistency that makes A to Z work for you, right? And then this is exactly what we do on a gym floor or whatever. Like if you're training somebody for a fucking to work in spinnies, I don't know. Like there are protocols for certain things, but they can always be adapted to that person's
100%.
life and how they do it.
Everybody's unique in their own way.
Absolutely.
And the way you learn, the way you go through life, that's yours.
Absolutely.
You know, like,
exactly. It's your story.
I can't remember. Somebody said something to me. Yesterday, somebody said to me, I don't have your discipline. And I was like, yeah, you're right. That's my discipline. You need to get your own. My discipline isn't going to work for you because it works for me. Yeah. And so that's how I want to help people is just realizing that you've got your own way of doing things. It's just tweaking a little bit. Like, how can we look at this in a different way that's going to help you reach your full potential?
I really think you're going to have some success out of this too, because even having general chats like this, bro, it can start here. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could sit with a handful of people right now and mentally, like I tell you right now, if you ask the two girls and Sammy yesterday if they got anything out of that, because all of them, apart from CB, messaged me and said, can we do this more often? Right? Yeah. And it was literally nothing. We got together as family and had a chat. And
that's how we work in our community, in our culture. Right. We work as a ainga, we work as a whānau, we work together.
Right. Yeah. But it was that stimulant conversation that they haven't got in a long time. Do you know what I mean? And that's what it is. Like that can be a game changer. I know for me, I got out of there, got into this notepad. And I'm like, right, this has to happen. Because I love that shit. And like hopefully the next week, maybe the podcast we do, we'll have all of them around the table talking about like our different upbringings and sort of a round table talk on that. But right. So to wrap it up, own business in the next 12 months. Hopefully you're going that way. And I definitely believe you're going to do that. Yeah. What about in terms of like from now, like the time being, working up to that, into that entrepreneurial space and in sort of, you know, because you're studying a science of it on how things work. You know, being open to stuff like this. Would you consider it having your own channel? Like I know you're starting to use social media for that benefit at the moment. Where can people, like if people wanted to reach out to you and come and have a general conversation like this, because I'm telling you, right, people might watch this and go, shit, like I've been living a life for the last 30 years, you know? You're not going to give them the answers, but you can definitely help them in terms of conversing in finding a truth.
You know? I mean, like even that conversation that we had on that table yesterday, just listening to the way people talk, language is such an expression of where somebody's mindset's at. And when you listen, like poor Josie, like she was just talking and I just kept pointing out. It's like, you're speaking this way. You're saying, I
Yeah.
can't. It's just like, that's an expression of where your mind's at. Like you've got to tweak these.
Absolutely. And I think, coming down on her, like I do it, you do it. We both sat there just not hammering her, but like we want the best for everyone around us. And I can think because you're going through that transition now of your life, I've been there. I'm sort of on the other side of it now. I'm like, shouldn't be in anybody's vocab. You know what I mean? Even at the worst point of your life, there is always going to be, and this is why it's sad to hear that people take their life, because, you've been there, I've been there. There's so much more to live for. Yeah. 100%. And as much as you don't think of that at the time, you're like, I don't even want to be here. Yeah. So much in between is like gray, then it becomes blue again. You know what I mean? So like, people just got to, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like, I just want to tell everyone, it does not happen overnight. You're not going to find your lane overnight, but you can't. And like you said, people are going to look at this and go, oh, fucking, you guys got it all sorted. It's not like every day we wake up and we go, oh shit. Like,
still learning.
Yeah.
Like I said last night to someone, this is the most vulnerable I've ever been. Like I'm literally living like out of my comfort zone. I don't have things sorted out. I don't have all the answers here. But what I've learned is when you're vulnerable, when you have the courage to show up, even when you don't know what the outcome is or what the answers are, that's where the magic happens. Yeah. When you're outside of your comfort zone, when you're challenging yourself. Yeah. And so whoever's listening to this, if you feel like you need to change things up, I challenge you, step up, reach out.
Take risk. Yeah. Take a risk, because, without any risk, there's no reward. And I said it yesterday on the table, don't die wondering. Exactly. Because if you are in that bad headspace and if you could look at yourself, if you've gone down that path of, the people who have gone before us and taken their lives. And I'm sure at that time is that as their soul was leaving their body and they could look down at themselves, I bet you all of them went, fuck, why did I do that? Yeah. I had so much more. I bet, bro, I could guarantee that's happened. You know what I mean? And it's sad because everyone has something to live for.
Everybody has a story to tell, and everybody has a purpose for being here. And Absolutely. It's just how can people tap into that and living their best lives and leaving the world different to how you found it.
Absolutely. Everyone's got potential.
100%.
Everyone's got potential. 100%. So, bro, I appreciate you being on.
Thanks, also.
Love you. And
love this chat.
We'll definitely, I'm going to put Tony's social handles and stuff in the bottom of this, but for you, like my advice for you in the next couple of weeks, months, whatever, is definitely, bro, because you come across good and knowledge wise. It is definitely, getting there as well. And you're only going to learn more by talking to more people. Because that's how this all works, is that, bro, I'd love to see something like a channel come up and like with, maybe a weekly 8 to 10 minute talk. You know what I mean? I 100%. Think that's for you, like therapy, A.
Yeah. 100%.
B, it's projecting. Exactly. And when you're projecting like that energy, you're only going to get it back. Exactly. You know what I mean? 100%. So hopefully we can help him up with a channel in the next couple of weeks, months. And we'll definitely keep in touch. And thanks for tuning into the One Tribe podcast. It's been a long one and I've loved every minute of it. So thanks, brother.
So
much love.
Shot.